Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Jaya Radha Gopinath, Radha Gopinath Shri Radhe. Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Radhe, Jaya Shri Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Jagannatha, Jaya Baladeva, Jaya Subhadramaya, Jaya Jaya Gauranithai, 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 Jaya Gauranithai. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Nittai Gaura Haribol, 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 Nittai Gaura Haribol. Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari. Namo Vishwapad Paramahansa Privrajagacharya Ashtotter Shata His Divine Grace Abhay Charana Vinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya, Beauty Founder Acharya, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Shri Vrindavan Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Shri Shri Navadep Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Upatsi Samvita Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. All glorious to assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glorious to assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glorious to assembled devotees Hare Krishna. All glorious to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glorious to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Srimad Bhagavatam class. Today we are reading from Canto 2, Chapter 7, title Schedule Incarnation, text number 13. Shirodhadau mara danava yuthapanam. Shirodhadau amara danava yuthapanam. Unmantanatam amritalabdhayadi deva. Unmatnanatam amritalabdhayad adideva. Prishtena kachapa vapurvi dhadara gotram. Prishtena kachapa vapurvi dhadara gotram. Nidrakshanodri parivartakashana kandu. Nidrakshanodri parivartakashana kandu. Shiro dadau mamara danava yuthapanam. Unmatanatam amrita labdhaya adideva. Prishtena kachapa vapurvi dadhara gotram. Nidrakshanodri parivartak kashana kandu. Shiro dadhau amara danava yuthapanam. Unmatanatam amrita labdhaye adideva. Prishtena kachapa vapurvi dadhara gotram. Nidrakshanodri parivartakashana kandu. Shiro dadhau amara danava yuthapanam. Unmantanatam amrita labdhaya adideva. Prishtena kachapa vapurvi dhadara gotram. Nidrakshana Parivarta Kashana Kandu Shiro Dada Amara Danavayuthapanam Unmatanata Amrita Lavadhaya Adideva Krishnena Kachapa Vapurvidhara Gotram Nidrakshana Parivarta Kashana Kandu. What by what meaning? Shira, milk. Udadhav, in the ocean of. Amara, the demigods. Danava, the demons. Yuthapanam, of the leaders of both hosts. Unmatanatam, while churning. Amrita, nectar. Labdhaya, for gaining. Adidevaha, the primeval Lord. Prishtena, by the backbone. Kachapa, tortoise. Vapu, body. Vidadhara, assume. Gotram, the Mandara hill. Nidrakshana, while partly sleeping. Adri Parivatta, rolling the hill. Kashana, scratching. Kandu, itching. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada, Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. The primeval Lord then assumed the tortoise incarnation in the order to serve as a resting place, pivot, for the Mandara mountain, which was acting as a churning rod. The demigods and the demons were churning the ocean of milk with the Mandara mountain in order to extract nectar. The mountain moved back and forth, scratching the back of Lord Tortoise, who, while partially sleeping, was experiencing an itching sensation. Purport. Although it is not in our experience, there is a milk ocean within this universe. Even the modern scientists accept that there are hundreds of thousands of planets hovering over our heads, and each of them has different kinds of climatic conditions. Srimad Bhagavatam gives much information which may not tally with our present experience. But as far as Indian sages are concerned, knowledge is received from the Vedic literature, and the authorities accept without any hesitation that we should look through the pages of authentic books of knowledge, Shastra Chakshuvat. So, we cannot deny the existence of the ocean of milk as stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam unless and until we have experimentally seen all the planets hovering in space. Since such an experiment is not possible, naturally we have to accept the statement of Srimad Bhagavatam as it is because it is so accepted by spiritual leaders. Like Sridhara Swami, Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti and others. The Vedic process is to follow the footsteps of great authorities, and that is the only process for knowing that which is beyond our imagination. The primeval Lord, being all-powerful, can do whatever he likes, and therefore he is assuming the incarnation of a tortoise or a fish for serving a particular purpose is not at all astonishing. Therefore, we should not have any hesitation whatsoever in accepting the statements of the authentic scriptures like Srimad Bhagavatam. The gigantic work of churning the milk ocean by the combined effort of the demigods and the demons required a gigantic resting ground or pivot for the gigantic Mandara hill. Thus, to help the attempt of the demigods, the primeval Lord assumed the incarnation of a gigantic tortoise. swimming in the ocean of milk. At the same time, the mountain scratched his backbone as he was partially sleeping and thus relieved his itching sensation. Om Agyanatimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmetam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Natam Tam Samsajivam Swadvaitam Savadutam Payana Shahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpataru Vasya Kripa Sindhu Vaevacham Patithanang Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivashadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Prabhakathamritam Tapta Jivanam Kaviviriditam Kalmashapaham Shavanamangalam Shimadatakam Bhuvivinati Te Puritajana. Hare Krishna. So, in this chapter, Lord Brahma explaining all the scheduled incarnation and we see that the Lord appearing in different incarnation, and it's actually called the Leela avatars, right? So he is appearing in different forms to perform different kind of Leelas. We saw previously in the incarnation of fish, or there is an incarnation of Varaha, the hog. So these are all Leela avatars. And when Lord appears in them, like through them, there are like the direct or indirect Leela, like when he is doing. So in this specific scenario, it's kind of indirect. So he is appearing in this Leela of the churning of the milk ocean, but he's not directly involved. He's just taking that form of the tortoise so that on his back they can put the Mandara mountain and they can churn it, so that from the bottom of the sea, the nectar comes out. And how it's explained here, that actually in the form of the tortoise, it just comes and it took on its back because the tortoise was feeling some itching sensation on its back. So when the Mandara mountain was on top and they were like churning and it was like moving like this, so it was like giving him a nice feeling, because when something is itchy, you have to itch it, right? So that was giving him this feeling. But in this case, this Leela is indirect. So he's just there, taking this form, helping that Leela to move on. Whereas we can see in the other Leela avatars like Barahadev or Nishingadev, where he's directly involved. Like, obviously he's fighting with Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. So, here, if we look in this specific incarnation and we see that what's the message and what the what the Lord is teaching us through this Leela. Here we see that obviously the fight between the demons and the demigods. Although the demons were more powerful in this case, Like we see some of the demons, they had much, much bigger strength and the weapons than the demigods. But ultimately the demigods, they prevail because of the fact that the Lord was on their side. And this is always the case. Like, from the time immemorial, we see that there is this conflict between good and evil. So, Sura and Asura. And we see that in today's world, we see, okay, there is always this conflict of good and bad, but this conflict was there from ever, since the beginning of the time. And we always see, and in this material world, we see that's different kinds of, based on that, we see different kind of illustration. So there are some who are accepting the God. There are some who doesn't accept the God, who rejects God. And that was the main difference between the good and evil from that age, like from Satya Yuga. Whoever accepting the Lord, accepting the authority of the Lord, they are in the good bucket, and whoever reject, they are in the bad bucket. So in material world also we see there is this good and there is this bad, and also there is one more that we see in this material world who actually characterize as innocent. So what their characteristic that they actually they don't know that the concept of the God. So there is different places of the world where in different culture they don't have that concept of the God. So they actually put in the category of innocent. So, and then when they come to this, when they grow up and come in connection with all the different kind of people, they can go either way. They can either accept or reject. So, as a responsibility of the devotees, their responsibility is to give them the message of the Lord, so that they become favorable. Otherwise, this material world is built to take them away from the Lord. This is the characteristic of Kali Yuga. Like all the different kinds of different kinds of there are things are in place to take someone far from the God consciousness or spiritual consciousness. Like when we were growing up, if someone says that, I want to read scripture or I want to go to temple, it just seems like a very, it doesn't seem something that a kind of a quality can be appreciated. It seems like a quality of something which is like, oh, they are weak, or like why, this is not cool, as they put in that way, right? So if you're saying, if you're going to a temple, if you're going to reading the scriptures, no, that's not for us. That's for some other people. We don't do all these things. So the material world is actually have all the different forces in place to make sure that take away people from the God consciousness. And if you see the history, why it's like that? Because some people, some leaders, they actually try to put themselves as equal to God. They try to see that, okay, I am as powerful as the God. I have all this facility. Why you have to think about God? I can provide you all of the things. So worship me. So that person thought about that, and obviously after some time that person fall down, went away. But that way of thinking actually attract lots of people. They say, oh, I can also get that kind of power. If I get that kind of power, then people will worship me. That's such a good feeling. Let me do it. So from that thinking, it's just whole, this cover actually created. And what is this cover? This cover is of false ego. False ego is actually a cover of the material world, which actually, when someone comes into this material world, it's surrounding them, that cover of false ego. So when that happens, it's basically you start thinking in a way that, everything is depend on me. Everything is surrounding me. Everything dependent on me. So you see the difference. Like for a spiritual, like someone who is thinking spiritually, who has spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness, for them, Krishna is in the center. For someone who is in material consciousness, for them, that individual person is in the center. And from there, because it happened because of the false ego. The false ego is a very, it's a very subtle thing. But it's present everywhere. And it's very strong. The 6 vices actually started from the false ego. We see that, lust, envy, greed, then madness, anger, illusion. All the 6 actually start from false ego. So this innocent group of people that we are talking about, it's actually if they get under this covering of false ego, and that's what's happening in this current world, that 99.99% of the civilization is not God conscious. Some think that there is someone, or we can go to once a month or once a festival to the either the temple or the mosque or the churches, right? But that's not God consciousness. You are just going into one specific space, a place, and you are saying, there is some kind of worship is happening. You just go there, observe, go away. That's not God consciousness. So for a devotee, when they see the innocent, specifically it is described for a Madhyama Adhikari, the characteristics of a Madhyama Adhikari devotee. For them, they love Krishna, right? They love Krishna, they worship Krishna. They have friendship with all the devotees. Then they have compassion for the innocent. And they disregard the demons, or people who rejects the atheistic. That's how a Madhyama Adhikari discriminate. Although someone can ask that, Prabhu, in spiritual life, there shouldn't be any discrimination. Yes, but sometimes to protect ourselves, we have to discriminate like that. Because Maya is very strong. Sometimes what happens that if you see that someone who is completely not interested in the spiritual activities, but you think, okay, let me try. Now, if you are not strong enough, if your sadhana is not strong enough, then what happens? That after some time you'll start feeling attraction towards that activities which that other person is doing. And then you will be, whatever you have done, you will be taken out from there. And now you are coming into that covering of false ego. So that's why it's very important, discrimination. So, first thing, love Krishna. And when you are loving Krishna, that love is actually coming out as a friendship with all the devotees. And then the compassion for the innocent. Then you see that, okay, all these people are suffering. So let me go and preach this message to all of them. And help them to come out of that cover of false ego. And then, ultimately, if you see that if you're putting some time and effort with some people and then it's not working, then you say, okay, I'll just move on, I'll try with someone else. Because this is a Madhyama Adhikari platform. When from Madhyama Adhikari platform, someone goes to Uttama Adhikari, They don't have to do this endeavor. By just looking at them, everyone will become devotees. But that's like a very high platform. So that's why it's important that what it has been described, that for a Madhyama Adhikari, that you should go through this kind of discrimination process, and then and also association also is very important. You have to choose your association very, very cautiously, that whom you like to associate with. Otherwise, it's very harmful for our spiritual life. Krishna has given us the intelligence, so we have to use it. And when we sincerely pray to Krishna, Krishna will show us the way. Like Prabhupada time and again says, just two things. Just do two things. Live, in this material world, we will go through so many problems. But just do two things and it will, help you. First of all, just leave it up to Krishna. Just surrender. With all this situation, all the things that is happening towards, around you, and you are very, very, your mind, intelligence, everything is bewildered. You don't understand, what needs to be done. Just surrender to Krishna. And the second thing is just do your practice, do your sadhana nicely. These two things just do, and then you will see that things will fall into place. But what is the main impediment? What is the biggest obstruction in that path? That simply I can't just leave everything to Krishna. My false ego tells me that no, I have to do this. I am the controller. That's where the problem starts. You just simply cannot surrender. Your false ego keep pushing you. No. Why? You are the owner. You are the controller. You should do it. And we keep pushing for that. So if we are not doing for Krishna, we are doing for Maya. There is only two options. There is no other options in this material world. Either Krishna or Maya. If you're not doing it for Krishna, you're doing it for Maya. And when Maya is saying that, oh, all right, this person is very trying to come to me. All right, no worries. Come, and Maya will give you a big embrace. And you will be in there. 8.6 million. It's life going after cycle after cycle. So that's why it's very important. It's very important to understand that this coming out of this cover of false ego. Now for the innocent, they are not even aware of that. So you have to explain to them. And then ultimately, the realization actually comes by doing devotional service. All these good instructions, all these nice classes, it's nice. It's very it's kind of nectar to, people comes to you sometimes and said, oh Prabhu, your class is like nectar to my ears. But what's the point of the nectar just keep on the ears and then goes away from there? It needs to go through to your heart, right? So how it goes to the heart? By doing devotional service. Devotional service is the best practice of spirituality. There are other ways. There are other things also that someone can take the path of to make progress in spirituality. We see the yoga, and there are other Ashtanga yoga, and there are various processes there. But the problem in those paths are, if you don't do it under the proper guidance, it can actually harm you more than benefiting you. And we see the example. We see the examples where, specifically in the examples of Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyaksha, very powerful. His aim in life was just this, that I have to prove myself that I am the most powerful one. That was his aim in life. And what he used to do, every day he used to go and challenge someone. So one day he went and he challenged Varun, the demigod of water. So in this material world, if we think 3 parts water and 1 part land, we know that, right? And he controls all the water. So you imagine how powerful he is. He is the demigod of water. But when Hiranyaksha went to him, Varun said, look, like, you don't want to fight with me. I'm not your match. He said that to Hiranyaksha. Then he said, you should go and find Hari. And you should fight with him. You should challenge him. And Hiranyaksha said, oh, who is this Hari? Like, who? Then Varun said, no, he is very powerful. You go and fight with him. And then Hiranyaksha was looking for Hari. And see, here is the beauty. The Lord, even a demon thinks about him, or like, looking for him, Lord comes and gives his darshan. Like we see that Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, Kamsa, 24/7 they were thinking about the Lord. Isn't it? Kamsa was like, day and night. We just came out of Janmashtami. Day and night he was just thinking, oh, and when this 8th son is coming, when this 8th son is coming. We'd like to think about Krishna like that, but his thinking was in a negative way. Because he wants to destroy the Lord. So Hiranyaksha was looking for the Lord, and then as we went through in the past verses, he went, who is the Hari? And he saw, oh, this is Hari in the form of a Varaha. And he just, Varaha, they just took him, like Hiranyaksha was so powerful, just took him with his task, he just pierced him. That's it, done. Hiranyaksha was dead. And when Hiranyaksha died, Hiranyakashipu, his other brother, Hiranyakashipu was very learned, even though he's a demon, but a very learned person, very, very learned person. When Hiranyaksha, you'll see, when Hiranyaksha died, the advice, the instruction Hiranyakashipu was given to his family to console them, it's wonderful. It's aligned, it's totally aligned with Bhagavad Gita, and where it says, it's not the body, the soul, you don't have to worry about this body, it has passed away. It's like very learned person. But then when he come to know that, that Hari killed his brother, he started doing this yoga. And this is again a practice, but without the proper guidance. His aim was I want to kill Hari. I want to kill Vishnu. So he did that tapasya, in such a way that Brahma has to come and then sign that contract with him that, okay, I can't give you this boon for immortality, but let's then, Hiranyakashipu again, as he was learned and very intelligent, he said, okay, let me write up this contract. Okay, this. So in such a way, it's a watertight. There is nothing that from his intelligence. But as we know, Rakhe hori mare ke, mare hori rakhe ke. Right? If the Lord wants to kill you, there will be a way. So that's what, but Hiranyakashipu, he took this process of yoga. He practiced so strong. But ultimately for what? For a wrong reason. So by doing those kind of processes, what happened that it gives you this false, impression, or false, it's kind of a confidence that yes, I'm as powerful as the Lord. Or they don't consider Hari Lord, I'm as powerful as him, I'm going to kill him. So that's why it just it just gives this, the false ego, it just bewilders everything. As I said, and from here starts all these problems. The first thing, lust. Oh, the Hari is having so much thing, he's so powerful. I want to have that. That's a lust. Then greed. Of all this Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, their name starts with gold, Hiranya. They are very much greedy for gold. And then greed. And then they have when they have this greed, and when someone is very greedy and they are not getting what they are supposed to get, what happened? They get frustrated. And from frustration, what comes? Anger. From anger comes illusion. So it just one after another. So that's why it's very important we take up the correct way of doing service, spiritual practice, which is devotional service. But there is also catch. Like, if someone is not doing the devotional service with proper, with the correct attitude, without the submissive attitude, it also can happen that someone is a learned devotee, can also develop the false ego. Oh, look, I memorize all the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhu, do you memorize all the verses? No. Okay, I'm higher. I can sit in that Vyasasana and I can when I'm giving class, I can just see this verse from this and that. It's good when you are doing that. But sometimes what can happen that it actually creates also false ego. That I'm so good. But the beauty of our lineage is there is someone who is there to crush your false ego. You know who is that? That's your guru. That's your spiritual master. And also Shiksha Guru, Diksha Guru, but whoever that is. Either like a Shiksha Guru or the Diksha Guru, but the Guru is there. Or even someone who you consider as your Guru. The responsibility of the Guru is to crush that false ego. So we see that the meaning of the word Guru is heavy, right? So Guru and Laghu. Laghu is light and Guru means heavy. So we say Guru Gambhir, Guru Pak means it's a very heavy, the person's nature is very heavy, means like Guru Gambhir. Guru Pak means like the food was very heavy. So the word meaning is Guru. So that means very heavy. So when Guru comes and Guru says something, you have to take it in a proper way. So Guru is there. So, but to become a Guru, the Guru's responsibility is to guide the student, Shishya, and the student's responsibility is to submit to Guru. Only a proper student can be a great Guru. Anyone cannot be a Guru. Straight away, if you don't went through all the practices, you can't just one very morning, you can't just wake up and say that, okay, I'm a Guru. Yeah, you can be a false Guru, but you can't be a proper Guru. The criteria for a Guru is that person was a very good disciple. So, what is the criteria for being a good disciple is you have to submit to Guru. Our lineage, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructed us, right? Jare dekho tare kaho Krishna upadesh, amar agyay Guru hoy, ei mor adesh. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was saying that everyone has to be a Guru. But what is the criteria for being a Guru? That first you have to be a good disciple. And what is the criteria for being a good disciple? That you have to fully surrender to your Guru. And again, if you have to fully surrender to someone, you have to come out of your false ego. So see that how this cycle is going? That if you cannot get out of this cycle, this covering of false ego, then there is no way that we can progress in spiritual path. And we see that, the examples are sometimes the false ego, even it's hard to take out that false ego, but then we have to think, as a human being, we have to rationally think that our intelligence is there, and we are saying that there are all these exalted personalities who submitted to this process. Why? What's the problem with us? We see that Srila Prabhupada submitted to this process. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu submitted to this process. And go up to Brahma, Lord Shiva, they all. So what's the problem with us? It's a very black and white. It's very black and white. There is no gray area here. Right? If you have a black background, and in front of that, even if you have a very small dot of white, it becomes really prevalent because you can see it. Because the background is black. So that's why this understanding and this submission to the Lord, that I have to do it, that very tiny little white spot that we start with. But once we start with that, it started to get bigger and bigger. So that black thing is our ignorance. And that very small white spot is the spiritual knowledge. As we start, as we keep, doing the service, submitting, surrender, that spot started to get bigger, and ultimately, ignorance is gone. And then we fully surrender to the Lord and go back to Godhead. Okay? Thank you. We'd like to end here. Ganshraj, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.